You are getting ready for Mercury retrograde. Please don't be afraid. Mercury retrograde is not what everyone claims that it is. And it's actually asking you for some very specific things. So let's dispel any myths around Mercury retrograde being here to cause problems or mess up your life or your relationships or any of a million things that people say about it. Now, there are some things we do have to be aware of during Mercury retrograde in particular, because it does tend to mess with things like travel plans or contracts, things that involve a lot of detail, and things that involve communication, the internet, phone service. There are a lot of things that can be affected by Mercury retrograde, including just cars and household appliances. And so what I spoke about in another video was in the lead up to Mercury retrograde. About 2 weeks before is the pre-shadow period. And that's when the glitches start to show up. And it was interesting because as soon as we went into the pre-shadow period, that big outage happened with Amazon and a bunch of other companies. So the pre-shadow period is usually a time where you can sort of preview what might go on during Mercury retrograde itself. So if you had any glitches over the past couple weeks, or if you noticed that maybe your furnace wasn't working so great, or your refrigerator wasn't working so great, or something else was malfunctioning, it's a pretty good indicator that that's something that you should take a look at before Mercury retrograde happens. Now, we're only a couple days away from it, so it might be a little too late, but those are some things to keep in mind. Now, that's on the practical side. Spiritually, emotionally, mentally, Mercury retrograde is here to help you realign. And it's asking you to see, to heal, to revise the things in your life that aren't working or are glitching. And you might have noticed a lot of that in the past couple of weeks. You might have noticed a lot of conflict with people in your lives, or a lot of tension. You might have noticed a lot of that out in the world, a lot of disagreements, a lot of fiery opinions, a lot of discontent. Those are all things that come up during Mercury retrograde periods to help us figure out what it is that we really want and the things that we really want to bring into our life or clean up in our life. So it's not something to fear. It's very powerful, but it's a time of reflection. And really, all of the words, retrograde starts with an R-E, and all of the words involved with Mercury retrograde also start with RE. So, revise, revisit, reflect, realign. All of those are that's the sort of vibe of Mercury retrograde. So it pulls us inward. It helps us look at where we are right now and compare that to where we want to be moving forward. So it's a good time to revisit a lot of issues that you're experiencing, a lot of places in your life where you feel stuck or you feel like aren't the way you want them to be. So it's a course correction, really. And it's really important not only to go inward and ask ourselves lots of questions, and not in a, I have to do this kind of way, but it's a great time, it's a valuable time to really compassionately sit with ourselves and think about all of the things in our life that need some sort of revision. So keep that in mind as we move through this. It's usually a 40-day period, which seems like a lot of time, but it actually, if this year's been any indicator of anything, it's time is moving really quickly through this year. So don't get too hung up on the dates. Just understand that when you feel pulled inward, when you don't feel like being very social, or you feel like there's a lot of reflection and thinking going on as it pertains to your own life, that's all really normal and really good and really helpful for you right now. So there are some things that we can do to move through this period with grace and with clarity, and those things are all about self-care. And I want to say again, I cannot say this enough, self-care is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity, and it is something that we have to commit to doing every day. We can't play catch up anymore. We can't just neglect ourselves for 27 days of the month and then for 3 days sit around sipping tea and thinking that that's going to help us. Self-care is a daily practice of paying attention to your physical health, paying attention to your mental health, paying attention to your emotional health, paying attention to your spirituality. If you have a spiritual practice in your life, you have to keep doing these things on the regular in order to maintain some sort of balance in your life, because if you don't, it's too easy to knock you out of balance. So it's a good idea to, again, choose the things you're most committed to, the things that are most important to you. If it's physical health, pay attention to what you're eating, what you're putting into your body. Are you drinking enough water? If it's other aspects of your physical health, exercise or whatever, make a plan. And make a plan that's doable for you, that you know you're actually going to stick to. And you have to do these things, again, every day. My daily practice involves yoga first thing in the morning. And again, this is just my practice. This is not something I'm telling you have to do, because it's different for everybody. Mine starts off with yoga, then quiet time. And during quiet time, I just sit in a room, look out the window at nature. Sometimes I journal if things come up. Sometimes I write down ideas if ideas come up. Sometimes I write down things that I'm grateful for if I'm feeling in that kind of mood. I just let it do what it needs to do. And then the rest of the day is taking care of myself in terms of the things that I know I need. I need to go for a walk at least once a day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, to clear my head and to get everything sort of rebalanced and centered in my own body. Again, you have to figure out what's best for you and what works for you. If I'm feeling especially tense or overwhelmed, I might do EFT tapping. I might do some self-Reiki. There are lots of things that you can learn for free on YouTube. You can learn how to do those things. You can add other tools, but it's important that you pay attention to the things that make you feel good, and you do them every day to keep yourself in a good amount of balance, so that things like retrogrades and we've had a lot of solar and geomagnetic storms over the past couple days, and those can really knock you for a loop. Now, self-care isn't going to cure everything. It's not going to prevent everything. There are things that you'll still experience, but at least when you are in a centered and grounded place, you're better able to cope with those things, and it's not so easy to knock you off balance. So hang in there. Don't fear the retrograde. Feel free to put comments and questions below, and thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.